Good morning and welcome to Mosaic. I'm Rabbi Eric Weiss and honored to be your host this morning. I'm so excited to introduce you to Naomi Tucker, who is the Executive Director of Shalom Bayit, and Zafira Derblick-Malaya, who is the Youth Education Coordinator at Shalom Bayit. Welcome.
Thank you.
Shalom Bayit has just a wonderful history about how it's come to be in our community. Naomi, why don't you let us know how it's come to be?
Sure. Well, we started 16 years ago in 1992, and it really was around a table like this where women from the Jewish community who were interested in the issue of domestic violence came together with women working in battered women's shelters who happened to be Jewish, and who together saw that Jewish women were not coming forward anywhere and getting help. And we knew that domestic violence cuts across all levels of socioeconomic status and culture and religion and happens at the same rate in all of those communities, but we wondered where were the Jewish women. So we got together and thought that if we started doing education in the community around domestic violence, that perhaps women would come forward, and that's exactly what happened.
So in that organic way, was it somebody making a phone call to somebody else out of some personal experience? Understanding something about our friend that just says, let's get together and talk about this?
You know, it was actually because I was invited. I was working in a battered women's shelter at the time, and I was invited to sit on a national Jewish Women's Task Force on domestic violence, which was part of the National Coalition Against Domestic Violence. And I said, you've got to be kidding me. There's no Jewish women, at least in the Bay Area where I'm working, who are coming forward and sharing their stories. And yet I know they must be, and so we have to really do something about this. So I actually called everyone I knew who was Jewish and worked in this field and said, can we have a conversation about what kinds of issues you would want to see on a national agenda? And those were the women who came together and said, we don't care about your national agenda, we want to know where are the women here. And that day we chose a name and a mission statement. And it was around someone's kitchen table that Shalom Bayit was born in that way. And it was a lot of banging on doors in the beginning. We couldn't get any congregation, Jewish organization, rabbi, community leader to talk to us. Everybody said, that's not an issue here, and wouldn't even let us borrow or rent a meeting room in 1992.
Wow.
So it took us about 6 months. The Jewish Community Center in San Francisco was the first place through, I think, an inside connection to give us a meeting room and let us have a program there. And we held our first community education program in October of 1992. 6 people came. I think half of them were the organizers. But one of the women came up to us afterwards and said, you know, you just told my story, and I wish you had been there when I was going through it. And that became how our history unfolded, that every time we went and talked about the issue and brought a particular segment of the community together or went to a congregation to speak about this issue, that always afterwards somebody would come up and say, thank God you're here, or I need your help.
And I know we're going to get to so much more throughout the show, but from 1992 to 2008, just as a little bit of a frame, I know that you just were recently honored by our Jewish Community Federation here in Sonoma, San Francisco, Marin, and the Peninsula as the Beneficiary Agency Staff Person of the Year, which was a competitive process and decided upon by lay leadership at the Federation. So what an extraordinary statement from 1992 of really banging on doors and wondering where you're going to get answered to 2008, where you're recognized as a community and national leader in the field.
Yeah, it was quite incredible. And I think that's really what the significance of the award was for so many people. Personally, it meant a lot to me as well, because this is my 25th year doing domestic violence work. And obviously 16th year doing it within the Jewish community. But for so many people in the community to see that progression, to see the Jewish Community Federation recognizing the issue of domestic violence and saying, this is something that's so important that we want to recognize the leader of this organization, I think is going to open so many more doors for battered women, because now there really is an acceptance that domestic violence happens and a willingness to do something about it, rather than so much of the resistance that we were meeting with before, when people truly didn't want to believe in their heart of hearts that this could possibly happen in Jewish homes.
It's fascinating, the whole way in which getting people to listen and to educate them to the issue really affects change. And I know that, Zafira, you are the Youth Education Coordinator, which is quite a wonderful thing to have, I know, at Shalom Bayit and really at any agency. Can you give us a sense of what it is that you do with the youth on this issue?
Yeah, sure. So I'll give you a little bit of the history of how our youth program started, which is called Love Shouldn't Hurt. And it started in 2002. One of the programs that we have at Shalom Bayit is we offer internships for college students to really teach them about working with within a nonprofit and doing this important work. And I think every single one of our interns who've come through Shalom Bayit are actually doing work somewhere in social change and working in domestic violence organizations all over the country. So it's really special.
Wonderful. We need to take just a quick break before we come back, and we're going to come back to you, Safira, and pick up on your work as the Youth Education Coordinator. Please join us in just a moment here on Mosaic.